we have Dave Austgen here, CEO of BioVeritas, and then we have Steve Brown, President and CEO of Chemstations. We're going to talk a little bit about what we are seeing in and around specialty chemicals. But before we do that, let's we'll quickly go through some of our insights. I don't see the screen up here, Brian, so I don't know what's going on, but we'll keep going here. CMR, Chemical Market Resources, does a lot of work in and around specialty chemicals. We just did a piece of work looking at polyisobutylene, which has been around for a long period of time, but our client engaged us to define new areas, new markets where there could be growth opportunities. What is interesting is that a lot of our work in and around specialty chemicals is taking chemicals and materials that have been around for a long period of time and identifying new markets, new applications for them. Increasingly, these could be niches within existing markets and applications where we are seeing dramatic, rapid growth. And we do a lot of voice of customer work, right? We'll go and talk to end users in a lot of these markets to understand where these products are being used, why are they being used, are there new requirements and specifications. So for example, in PIB markets, right, a lot of mature market segments. But again, energy megatrends like renewables, for example, is a driver where we're seeing a lot of growth for some of these traditional materials. Asphalt modification, primarily driven by a broad range of emission and environmental sustainability issues. We are seeing new opportunities to modify asphalt. And then even tires, right? I mean, we are seeing a lot of new pressures, especially from a sustainability point of view in and around tire markets, and we are seeing new growth there with varying levels of grades and functions within these existing materials. Similarly, looking at SBS markets, right? Again, identifying areas where we can see growth for some of these traditional materials. And again, asphalt modification, we see that again because it's driven to a large extent by this dramatic increase in spend in and around infrastructure that we are seeing. And as a result, you're seeing the needs for differentiated asphalt formulations, which is driving opportunity for some of these markets. Similarly, we are looking at some traditional long chain polymers and saying what are some of the applications. Drag reducing agents is one application of some of these molecules and polymers. What is interesting is that traditionally drag reducing agents would be used only in long haul crude oil pipelines and to a certain extent refined product pipelines. We are now seeing a lot of applications in gathering and processing, offshore pipelines. So we are seeing new applications emerge which put new pressures on the formulations for some of these products. Another megatrend is in and around critical minerals materials. So this we talked about this a little bit during Energy Transition Day, but we have two competing challenges. Demand for critical minerals is rising, but the ore quality from which you get a lot of these metals and minerals is declining. So that's putting a lot of pressure on processing technologies, on chemicals and formulations that are used during processing, and that is driving a lot of innovation in and around mining chemicals, and that's some of the work that we've been doing, helping companies selling mining chemicals additives into the different mining markets. So that's what we have. Let's get into the panel discussion. Dave, we'll start with you. Tell us a little bit about BioVeritas, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Help me just forward.
Yeah.
Great. So my name's Dave Austgen. I'm CEO of BioVeritas. Just a little bit about my background. I spent 20 years with Shell, starting out in R&D, and then moving into some innovation roles, and then finally into a couple of the commercial ventures, including Shell Hydrogen. And at that time, we were trying to provide an infrastructure for refueling fuel cell vehicles that were going to be out in 5 years, and they never materialized. I moved on from there to the the Advanced Biofuels Group, and in that context, I was investing in a lot of startups, including Austgen, Codexis, Virant, Biofine, several hundreds of millions of dollars. At that point in time, I sort of got the bug and decided I wanted to jump out of Shell and into the world of startups. And so I left back in 2010, and I've been a member of the executive team, or a member or a consultant to other companies for the last 14 years with three or four different companies, and as a member of the executive team, and maybe a half dozen as a consultant. In fact, I did some consulting with Uday here, and that's what's led to this great friendship and fun we have. Part of which led to the job I have today. So, if it fails, I'm blaming it on you, and if it's successful, it's.
I'll wait for the check.
Yeah, no. Anyways, so let me introduce BioVeritas very quickly. We produce, or we will be producing, bio-based carboxylic acids that can be converted into a wide range of derivatives. Carboxylic acids, as many of you will know, are very reactive molecules. It's very easy to convert them into other molecules, including aldehydes, including esters, triglycerides. I'll go through some of those. Our initial focus, though, we're very laser focused on a high-value, clean-label food ingredient market, where we're going to introduce a natural mold inhibitor. The standard mold inhibitor today used in most bread products is calcium propionate, made from propionic acid that's made by hydroformylation of ethylene. What we're doing is providing this from biomass. The other market we'll look at is human and animal nutritional products, mainly related to butyric acid. And all of this will start to come into context as we go on to the other slides. The platform itself is based on what's called a directed mixed culture fermentation. It is somewhat akin to anaerobic digestion, but a big step forward. We have learned to control the microbial biology, and so we can stop methane production. And what we do is we recover the acids that are in the intermediates in anaerobic digestion. It's basically the same thing as what you do in anaerobic digestion is you basically convert gold into lead, and what we've done is said, let's just stop at the gold. Because the carboxylic acids are far more valuable than the gas. This concept was first developed at Texas A&M back in the late 90s. It was taken out of Texas A&M early in the 2000s by a company called Terabon to produce fuels. That did not go well. Another set of investors bought it, pivoted towards the carboxylic acids, and developed a method for doing for actually recovering everything from acetic acid to caprylic acid. But they ended up losing the company also in bankruptcy, not because the technology was bad, but because they had a hard time raising the funds at the time. Today, I guess I want to share that we're building on 20 plus years of R&D and pilot work. We have a market development unit in Bryan. We're currently de-risking fermentation by scaling it up 60x, but otherwise we're already in engineering for our first plant. We're on track for a Q3 final investment decision this year. And it'll be located in Cedar Rapids. We already selected a site. If you look at our website, you'll see our leadership team is very heavy in gray hair. The leadership team itself has more than 200 years of experience, and some of the most important experience we brought on board is capital projects experience. Era Partners is our main backer, and Era is a private equity firm here in Houston, located here in Houston, with a investment thesis around decarbonization. Having Era Partners as our main backer has been a huge benefit to us. All right, let me talk a little bit about what it is we produce. We produce, as I say, carboxylic acids. In the main, we produce acetic, propionic, butyric, valeric, and caproic. They all come out of the distillation, out of the fermentation. We are capable of producing C7 and C8, which are heptanoic and caprylic acids. But right now, for our first plant, we're focused on the 5 that I show on the top there. And what we're making from them in the main is a cultured vegetable oil derivative that serves as a green mold inhibitor. And I'll explain a lot more about why we're entering that market first. The message, one of the messages that I want to get across here again, and I'm going to reinforce this a couple of times, is that you can convert these carboxylic acids into a wide range of other materials. So you can convert them into, in fact, most carboxylic acids are converted into esters. You can convert them into triglycerides, the same chemistry, aldehydes, amides, unsaturated carboxylic acids. I don't show it here, but ketones, primary, secondary alcohols, olefins, diols, nitriles, amines, and dicarboxylic acids. And they go into a very wide range of different markets. We're focused on those markets that will put a premium on a natural, green, 100% biogenic product. So food and feed preservations, flavors and fragrances, anything that touches the skin, animal health, human health, personal care, cosmetics, and then a number of other markets. Now, I said we are very laser focused on this first product for food preservation. I mentioned that it's the name of the product is cultured vegetable oil derivative. What we do is we ferment glycerol, which you know is a byproduct of biodiesel production. It's very good at producing propionic acid. Calcium propionate is the main mold inhibitor that goes into bread and baked goods these days. What we produce is a mixture of acetic acid and propionic acid, close to 9-to-1 propionic to acetic, and it's a cultured product. What drives this market is something called the clean label movement. And you all are probably, many of you are probably part of that market, that movement, and you don't even know it. Today, people go into the store and they look at labels, and what they don't want to see is chemical names on the labels. And so food companies are working very hard to displace the chemicals, the petrochemicals that go into their product. So sodium benzoate, calcium propionate, which we now can call cultured vegetable oil derivative. There's just a wide range of preservatives and other materials that the food companies are trying to get out of their products because consumers don't want to see them. And in our case, in this particular case, they're willing to pay a very, very large premium because their cost in use is very low. So they need to put maybe 1% of the preservative into bread. The value they derive from being able to take calcium propionate off the label is very high. So the premium they're willing to pay is not 20%, not 50%, but multiples of the petrochemical price. And there is a market already established for natural mold inhibitors. What we are bringing to market is something that is much more akin to, has the same efficacy, same sensory as the petrochemicals that have been in there forever. So we're confident that we'll be able to draw a significant premium. The other products that we're looking at from the first plant, butyric acid, valeric acid, caproic acid, mainly the butyric acid, that'll be the balance of most of our product, and that goes into human and animal health supplements, nutritional supplements. It's very good for gut health, for colon health, helps with growth of animals. And then later we'll move into we'll retune our fermentation so that we can produce some of the other chemicals at a higher level. So what we've done with this first plant is we've tuned it to produce 70% propionic acid, 20% butyric acid. we'll retune it, and we will be able to, because we understand the microbial physiology now, we'll be able to produce something with much more C5 or C6, which we might help us move into a lot of other markets. All right, the basic difference here is what we're doing, it's a drop-in product. Everything we're focused on are drop-in products for petrochemicals. So instead of starting with oil and doing the traditional processing and generating or producing the synthetic products, we start with excess biomass, generally pre-consumer food waste. We put it through this mixed culture fermentation. By the way, the mixed culture fermentation is radically different than the major trend in fermentation today. The major trend in fermentation today is precision fermentation. Let's go modify the genetics of an organism and put it into a sterile fermentation system and get it to produce a single chemical, a single metabolite. It requires sterility. It requires expensive metallurgy. And what we're able to do with a mixed culture fermentation, no sterility at all. We can use cheaper metallurgy. We don't have to sterilize the systems. It's much cheaper fermentation. What we end up producing are drop-in bio-based ingredients for food ingredients, for specialty chemicals, and eventually we expect to get to fuels and lubricants. The process itself is very simple. It's feedstock preparation, the fermentation itself. We clarify, removing the undigested solids. We concentrate with evaporation. Then there's a series of separations that must occur, and we have 6 or 8 streams of carboxylic acids that are generally 99% pure. And then we can convert those into derivatives. The process itself is simple. What's special about the process and what we are able to cover with patents and trade secrets is the way it's integrated and the solvents that we use and some of the techniques that we use around fermentation. As I mentioned, we recover high purity products. No, we don't use any mineral acids, no toxic solvents, so these things can go into food products. And the recycling system is integrated in a way that allows us to reuse many of the chemicals that are already going into the system, like buffers. Now, this is the last slide I'll show you, and it'll make Uday happy because I can see he's nervous already.
You need better market analysis though, Dave, I'll tell you that.
He's selling here. He's already selling. We can enter what's a sizable market with food ingredients. And it's very attractive in terms of price levels and margin opportunity. This gives us a chance to come in at a fairly reasonable capital, build a plant, which we're currently engineering. We just finished FEL2. We're about to start FEL3. We're going to build it in Cedar Rapids. We can learn with that plant. We'll probably build 2 or 3 plants. That first plant's going to be 5 KTA. The second plant, the third plant might be 10, 20 KTA. They'll be relatively small. And then we'll start to move into derivatives. So I expect us first to move into esters and triglycerides, the easiest conversion, Fischer esterification chemistry, and then move into ketones and some of the other derivatives. And ultimately, we will be able to get to SAF. Now, remember, this is where the company started. They were taking these acids and producing SAF from them. We have now improved the recovery process such that we can do this much more efficiently. And today, with the revenue stack that's available for SAF or for aviation fuel, we can enter that market in a reasonable amount of time at a very large scale because we've gone step by step, learning as we've gone up the scale ladder. Okay, I'm going to stop there. And
excellent, Dave. Very helpful, very interesting. Steve, please tell us a little bit about Chemstations.
Sure. Steve Brown, president of Chemstations, and more recently, I'll talk a little bit, president of the engineering simulation division of DataCore. So my background, I am a chemical engineer, apparently celebrating Engineers Week also. So super excited about that. If you were here last year, you know I'm a big cheerleader for what chemical engineers and the engineering group as a whole do for the world and its people. What I want to do with this slide is just point out that I've been with this business, this is my 31st year with the Chemstations business. Started out as an undergrad and did technical work, sales, marketing, management, took over day-to-day operations in 2016 and led the organization through an acquisition by DataCore. For those of you not familiar, DataCore started in 1981, initially with an ERP system. We've inherited with this acquisition a whole bunch of acronyms. So we had our own batch of acronyms. I've got a whole new slug of them that's come through with this acquisition. Their claim to fame is ERP designed from the ground up for process manufacturing, i.e. non-discrete manufacturing, right? What I am told, not being in that business directly, many ERP solutions that were built for discrete manufacturing require modules, kludges, hopes and prayers to get to non-discrete manufacturing. DataCore's tools were built from the ground up for process manufacturers. Starting in 2016, they, under new ownership, started reinvesting in products, existing products, developing new products, and through acquisition have started to expand that portfolio, moving from ERP to CRM, MES, asset tracking, formulation, and process simulation. What got me excited is last year we actually also acquired AFT, Applied Flow Technology. Some of you may be familiar. They're kind of a cousin company to Chemstations. These are mechanical engineers. These are a really bright group who actually started as rocket scientists who do fluid flow. I guarantee anyone who has a facility is flowing some fluid around. These guys design and troubleshoot fluid flow systems, both vapor and liquid, and including vibration analysis for rotating equipment, so pumps, compressors, things like that. So we're super excited about the synergy that provides with our process simulation tools, which I'll get to in a second, but also just the family of customers that have come into the DataCore umbrella since last year. So, Chemstations, just to establish our bona fides, in 1967, the U.S. Navy, like many government organizations, was providing funding, probably sitting around in rooms like this with a bunch of engineers and economists. And I imagine it was a lot less PowerPoint, a lot more cigarettes, but the concern was we might not have enough oil in the United States. Let's explore synthetic fuels. So the DOE, US Navy, and others were handing out funding to develop simulation tools, software simulation tools. Products started at the University of Houston. Dr. Rudy Motard and Dr. Ernest Henley led that project as principal investigators called CHESS. That was a chemical engineering simulation system, Fortran mainframe, just like all the software tools of the day. And it lived as an academic product until '84. McGraw-Hill picked it up in their COAID division, if some of you remember that name. That was an unsuccessful project to sell software like books. McGraw-Hill was obviously very good at selling books. My understanding is that engineering software was not a good fit. And so in '88, they spun all of that business out. Chemstations was founded in '88 to sell ChemCAD and continue that development of that product. And so over the years, we have worked tightly with a large number of customers, over 500 industrial customers, about 200 academic users around the world teaching chemical engineering with simulation software. So a large customer base that's come along for the ride. We have worked with them to add features, expand functionality, and deliver results. The point on the right here is sort of our capabilities that we provide, but I think I've heard over the last couple of days several times, so what? So what? Well, here's the so what. The so what for us is if our teams can't sit down with your teams and determine that we can increase your revenue, decrease your costs, decrease your risks, well then I hope we can still be friends. But I think that we, with our proof points, can prove that. We've done that consistently with our customer base and look forward to establishing new relationships going forward. We're very excited about the investment that DataCore is putting into our business to expand our functionality, add to our team. So growth is the plan, and we want to share that with the world, with our existing customers and with folks like you who might be considering an engineering tool like this. My final point before I turn it back over, Uday, is there's been a lot of discussion about bioprocessing. If everybody remembers the song, I think it was from the 80s, early 80s maybe, I Was Country When Country Wasn't Cool. We've been working with folks who were bio when bio wasn't cool. So I remember traveling the country, meeting with folks from, you might remember the names like Raphael Katzen, Vogelbusch, ICM, what's become Poet these days. There were a half a dozen companies that were going around the world building ethanol plants, both beverage grade and fuel grade plants. Those were bio, and they were doing first principles analysis with our tools of the fermentation and post-processing distillation to do bioprocessing before there was any cachet at all around that word. So we're excited to see that come full circle and be a participant in some of the projects that are going on around the world today.
Thanks, Steve. One of the changes to the portfolio that I see for DataCore is Trackabout. Is that a new acquisition?
So Trackabout was acquired, I believe, in 2020. They do asset tracking for the gas processing industry, right? So there's a significant issue for folks that are transporting and tracking containers, gas containers, cylinders and things. And so they have a worldwide presence. I think Air Products is one of their largest customers. And so yeah, we're excited about synergies between not only asset tracking, but all of the suite of solutions that DataCore has.
That caught my interest because we've been looking at that space, the packaged gas distribution space in particular.
So I need to know you now.
I'll get you a contact.
So when you look at somebody like BioVeritas and their process, right, and say, I guess how can Chemstations help? Where can it help? I'm sure you guys are doing some process simulation work.
We're doing a lot.
But I'm just curious, right? I mean, as just as an example, right? Where do you help and support?
See, this is good because he's wanting me to sell you on stage. I love it.
What goes around comes around.
So for those companies that we are actively participating with who are in whether it's bio or traditional technology, early stage, pre-funding, getting funding, commercializing, what we've seen is that there is a large amount of engineering work that's done at kind of a feed level, FEL0 or FEL1, plus minus 100%, proving out the technology. We participate at that level all the time. You can model in a process simulation package a lab scale process. So you're actually collecting data, you're validating it in a simulation. That level of work is something that we've participated in throughout our history as a solution provider. And so the real value though that we bring is to take that work to move to directed experiments, limiting the amount of experiments that you've got to do because you're under a time crunch. And so if you can do some simulations that either eliminate or focus in on a set of experiments, that's a huge time saver is what we've discovered with our customers. And then even moving to pilot scale, taking the work that you've done at the lab scale and going to a pilot scale. You're effectively just changing the volumes and now you're having to worry a little bit more about heat transfer, mass transfer. Again, directing experiments at the pilot scale is a huge time saver. If the limiting factor is moving from lab scale to commercial scale, in some industries it may not be because there's a funding issue, a huge CapEx expense that you are waiting on, but in some cases that can be the limiting factor, and that's where we can really provide a wedge, a lever to speed up that whole process. And then again, full scale, pilot scale to full scale, that jump changes in mass transfer, heat transfer, all the work that's been done from lab to pilot to commercial can be in one environment, so that each group that's participating can be focused on the same set of data, the same models, the same reaction chemistry. That can be invaluable for some of our customers in that startup space.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, that's helpful.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, we're had I known you were Vogelbush, you did Vogelbush, I probably would have come to you because they're a real success story. But we're in Aspen House. Can we still be friends?
We can still be friends.
So, Dave, you talked about how you're doing a lot of simulation work right now. Is that in prep for this commercial plant? I'm curious, how are you getting ready for the commercial plant?
Well, we built a simulation for FEL1 that provided the basis of design for FEL1, and then we did the same thing for FEL2. Very complete model of the simulation of the whole plant. And now we're working on a updated simulation for FEL3 to provide the basis of the design for FEL3.
Okay. Is the plant...
one other thing, sorry, to speak to Steve's point, it also does direct our R&D efforts.
Yeah.
We use it to tell us, where are the big cost elements and what do we work on. Very helpful in that respect.
So is a lot of the R&D focused on finding ways to reduce CapEx?
Yeah, absolutely. CapEx and OpEx, yeah.
Okay.
We're at the point where with FEL3 we're going to lock down.
Yeah.
And so any R&D that we're doing now is going to be seen in plant 2.
For future plants.
Yeah.
So plant number 1, is it spoken for? Do you have all offtakes signed? Or
we don't have all offtakes signed. We have very good market pull. We're in the process of negotiating several either offtakes, firm offtakes, or letters of intent, memorandum of understanding. But our goal, and we're about to launch a financing round, and we will lock down 75% of the product in offtakes before we go out.
Okay. And what does the customer landscape look like here? Who are these distributors of chemicals, or are they?
Not distributors so much as these are formulators in the food industry, food ingredient companies who would buy our product and mix them in a blend that they would then sell to a baker, or where the bakers have the capability, we'll sell directly to the bakers. So some of the companies that you would guess we're talking to, well, let me just take 2. Corbion is one of the biggest food ingredient companies. Yeah. We're in deep discussions with them. They've evaluated our product. Bimbo is the biggest bread baker in the world, and they are also in the process of evaluating our product. So we've got a dozen companies that have evaluated our product, and we're in negotiations with about half of them right now.
And what is the price premium that they're willing to pay?
I told you I can't talk about price.
When you said I can't talk about price, I moved that question to the top.
Somebody talked to him about the law here. What I would say is the price premium is sufficient for us to make a good return.
Okay. But you are seeing willingness amongst customers to pay a little bit of a premium for these kinds of
Here's what I can tell you. Here's what I can tell you. Calcium propionate sells at $1 a pound, maybe $2 a kilogram, maybe it's $1.50 a kilogram, made from petroleum. The market premium for the natural mold inhibitors that are out there today, which are mainly cultured wheat flour or cultured dextrose, made by precision fermentation, single culture, sterile fermentations, is 5 to 8x what the petrochemical price is, which gives us a lot of room to move into that market.
But is that based on competing products that are being sold in the space, or?
It's based on, so there's maybe a half dozen companies that sell cultured wheat flour, which is a mold inhibitor that is primarily, it may have up to 50% calcium propionate in it, but it has other metabolites. It'll have calcium lactate and maybe calcium succinate in it. And so it doesn't have the efficacy that we provide. We provide something that's much closer. It's essentially the testing, all the testing we've done is we're a one-to-one drop-in for the petrochemical mold inhibitor. They generally, the mold inhibitors that are out there today generally have to go 2 to 3 to 1 to provide enough mold inhibition efficacy to meet the efficacy of petrochemicals. So what our customer value proposition is relative to the natural mold inhibitor companies out there is we're a drop-in for petrochemicals. We are a drop-in. You don't have to do any other reformulation. You put us in, and it's the same as the calcium, basically the same as the calcium propionate that comes from petrochemicals. The others, they have to put more of it in because they have a much lower. Calcium propionate is by far the most effective mold inhibitor for bread products or for baked products. Calcium acetate, calcium lactate, they have some mold inhibition capabilities, but they're low relative to calcium propionate. And so the efficacy is lower, substantially lower for these natural products that are out there. And they come with other metabolites, so they can create sensory problems, smell, taste, even texture when you put it in bread. And then the food ingredient companies or the bakers, they have to reformulate around that, and that's expensive. That's very expensive.
But so are you saying that the competing products are blends of these ingredients, and yours is more of a single product,
Exactly.
Just the calcium propionate?
Yeah, it's a calcium propionate with 10% calcium acetate.
Okay.
And
so that should command a higher price than some of these competing products, conceptually.
Would you like to join our marketing team?
No, but we can sell you a study on value-based pricing. Steve, AI, right? I mean, pretty much everybody out there has AI somewhere. So I'm curious, I guess, more realistically, more on, I guess, where is it truly adding value? How are you using it in your offerings?
So I would say to date, it's still under study with us. We have a couple active discussions with partners. To be upfront, we don't have any AI expertise on staff, have not. So this is a partnership type discussion for us. And what we are being careful of, and if anybody's read, Decima did a great study, process simulation in the future, a couple of years ago. I think it's 2021. You can find it online. It's a great position piece. And they address AI, and what I found interesting is my personal opinion, and so I won't say this is the company opinion, but let me state it this way. Human beings, in the main, have 5 fingers on each hand, right? When you use a image generator from Bing or Google or anyone, that's a lax boundary in the images that are crafted. You'll often get images with less or more than 5 fingers on the hand of a human in an AI-generated image. Well, what's the outcome? What's the consequence? Not much if you're just generating an image. Maybe it's funny, but there's no impact. In the chemical space, and Decima identified this as a potential problem, it really depends on your training set. If you are training an AI or an ML model based on data from a facility, your training set is whatever boundaries of operation you've had. And if you ever exceed those boundaries, you could run into a significant problem. The case we like to use is, well, what happens if you've got a 2-phase mixture in a distillation column? For those of you who are chemies, you know that if temperature or pressure changes, those phases can collapse. And that can have a huge impact on controllability and your process. Could lead to a shutdown, could lead to a safety situation. Well, if your model, your AI ML model, has not been trained, it has no innate understanding of physics. Just like it has no innate understanding of the fact that people have 5 fingers, right? And so the intelligence provided by a first principles simulator adds physics first principles grounding to these models. And so my personal opinion and the view that I'm pushing internally is that we have to be a part of those discussions to make sure that our customers involve that first principles thinking when they decide to go with an AI ML model. The combination of training on data sets from real facilities in conjunction with training it on a first principles rigorous simulator that will predict that, phase collapse, for example, give you a much more powerful, much safer outcome. And so that's the direction that our discussions and partnerships are heading at this point.
And who do you see yourselves potentially partnering with, or what does that partner landscape look like?
Coming soon. Okay. I'll be happy to go a little more public with those once they get a little further along.
It looks like they are actual companies and not much earlier stage like universities.
There are some great companies out there. There are some great companies that actually are populated with chemical engineers, which I like.
That's good. Dave, so I guess what are the commercial plans for the company? You're focused right now on building plant number 1, but you're already talking about potential improvements to plant 2, potential applications, your horizons, right?
Right.
So I guess what do you need to do commercially to get there?
Well, this is the sort of standard learning curve or experience curve situation. We'll build the first plant mainly for food ingredients markets. The second plant and the third plant will be probably also for food ingredients and maybe some personal care opportunities. And they'll be bigger. We'll go up in scale, maybe 10 KTA, maybe 20 KTA. And then we're going to start to move into other derivatives. So we're looking at esters and triglycerides for plants down the road, and there's a lot of applications where triglycerides and especially esters go into products that touch the skin. If it's a product that touches the skin, there's going to be a premium for a bio-based material, and that's what we're going to be addressing. That's what consumers are starting to push, and so then we'll look at ketones. Ketones is the next logical step. We can go into ketones because they also go into cosmetics. They also go into the skincare properties. We're not going to be able to sell against paints, for example, where there's not going to be a big driver, not for the next 10 years for bio-based chemicals. But where we may end up going sooner rather than later is into SAF. And what might drive us there is the great incentives that are being put into place for SAF right now. And so I haven't said much about this, but it's a really pretty simple process to go from our acids to SAF. You go through a ketonization step, where you react 2 carboxylic acids together and you get a ketone out of it, and then you go through a hydrodeoxygenation step. And generally, if we've tuned the fermentation right, we're already in the SAF range. But we'll do a separation to make sure that we get the right SAF cut. And and frankly, going to SAF, it allows us to take off half of the back end of the plant where we're doing all those separations of the individual acids. We will just feed the mixed acids into the ketonization reactor, and so we're very bullish on the SAF opportunity. What keeps us from moving there now is we have to have laser focus on that first plant in that first market. Way too many startups have died because they got their hand caught in the cookie jar.
I'm disappointed. I thought you were going to say you're laser focused on the next opportunity, which is DAC.
Well, I'm first going to ask Chemsystems to simulate that for me.
So, Steve, when you look at these portfolio companies that you have, right? Is there first of all, it's a very interesting portfolio of companies, right? And we actually got introduced to you via DataCore, right? So, but is there technical exchange, collaboration between these portfolio companies, or is it more at a commercial angle?
More at a commercial level for the business side solutions at this point.
Yeah.
There have been some high-level discussions about how to tie those things together, from ERP to plant floor. Simulation is a part of that. A digital twin could be a part of that. So discussions are ongoing. Within the engineering simulation business, now that we've bolted on applied flow technology, there are much deeper discussions about collaboration in terms of functionality.
Okay.
So ChemCAD is the Chemstations product. The process simulator, obviously we've got flow throughout
you can model a broad range of things.
And the AFT guys have a much deeper understanding of pipe flow modeling, and so there are upside benefits to customers. So we've already got joint customers. We're sitting with them to understand what additional value can we bring.
Mm-hmm. Dave, you are in fundraising mode, right?
We are.
So have you raised sufficient capital for the first plant, or?
No, okay. No. We're well capitalized. We've ERA and some of the limited partners have committed $65 million from the day that we came out of bankruptcy. So that was August of 21, and we're still well funded under that. We will go out for a growth equity round very soon, and we will raise sufficient funds to build the first plant. And it may be a combination of debt and equity. Could even be some preferred equity at the project level. In fact, we're very interested in funding as much as we can at the project level. But we'll raise enough money, enough funds to build that first plant and carry us our SG&A for 2 years. I really can't say what the cost of the plant is, but it's going to be a substantial round.
Okay. Let me open this up to questions from the floor.
Hi, my question's for Steve. What do you think would be the main market that would drive Chemstation sales in the short term?
Sorry?
What would be the main market that would drive Chemstation sales in the short term? And then the follow-up question would be how Chemstation software is compared to Aspen Heises?
Well, I know I've got some esteemed colleagues from Aspen in the room, so we may leave that one for a drink after, and we can all be invited to that. For the first part of your question, what we've seen is growth across our customer base. So Chemstations, as we grew from 1988, we actually entered the market late in terms of simulation software systems. So we focused on downstream chemicals, starting commodity chemicals, moving through fine specialty pharmaceutical. That's been our bread and butter. So additional growth in those areas has been significant. But what's new for us, I would say 80% of the new customers we've had in the last year and a half have been new technology like the ones we've seen in the presentations this week. I mean, it is waste to fuel, it is biomass to fuel, it's unique bioreactions. That's where a lot of money and attention is being put from teams around the world, and so we're seeing that globally. So I would say short term, additional growth within traditional process industries that we're all familiar with, but there's been a spike around these new technologies with the goal of sustainability, all the things you've seen. And on that point, you didn't ask about sustainability to either of us, and I just wanted to make the point that when I talk to a lot of our customers, the users, the guys in the trenches working on plants, the attitude that comes back a lot of times is, what is this sustainable stuff? This has been my whole career. I'm always looking to save energy. I'm always looking to, make more with less. Isn't that sustainability? Well, is this just a branding message? Engineers are sort of geared up to solve this problem. And that's why I think that chemical engineers in particular are uniquely positioned to take on this mantle or this flag of sustainability, because it's been our careers. This is what we do. And so we get really excited that their work is being pushed to the forefront of corporate discussions at C-level these days. So sorry to take your question in a different angle, but Uday, you didn't ask us about sustainability.
I mean, good point. We were caught up with this focus on DAC.
Right.
More questions?
Yeah, I'll take this one. And for Steve, and first appreciate taking me down memory lane. I did work with Chess with Dr. Henley, and I work with you since you started at U of H, Americhem, and all the way through. Even at Origin, we had ChemCAD very successfully. The question is, as we're looking at a lot of the sustainability, there are a lot of unit operations that, while we've had them, they were not popular enough to make it into simulators. Things like electrolysis, you can fake it out with a reactor and things like that, and more complicated adsorptions. Are there, as you're looking towards those trends, what new unit ops are you guys looking at putting in so that you can enable some of this sustainability? And a side comment to your thought, chemical engineers have been trying to do sustainability. We never get the budget.
Sure. So to your question about sort of new unit operations, what has traditionally happened in process simulation world is an academic or a group of academics will come up with a set of equations for a generic new unit operation, whether it's an electrolyzer or something else, and then once it's published in literature, all the simulators add it. What I think we've seen in the last few years is a need for the simulation companies to be more proactive. And so what we're doing right now is identifying, and one of the great things about being part of the DataCore family is that the resources are available. So I've got now teams freed up to be proactive and go out. Electrolyzer is a great example. It's on the table as we speak, right? That's an area that is very hot. And there are businesses popping up specifically around electrolyzers. There are traditional businesses that want to add an electrolyzer to a new process they're designing. So this is for existing customers and brand new business opportunities for us to prove ourselves that we can proactively go out, find out what the industry trends are, and develop the unit operations that may be needed. And even beyond unit operations, thermodynamic models, finding new thermodynamic data for new chemicals that are popping up that maybe aren't well studied today. That's something we have to be more proactive about. And like I say, we now have the resources to do that type of proactive work. So thanks for the question, and thanks for the shout out.
Hi, good afternoon. So my question is for David. So calcium propionate that you produce is chemically identical to the standard calcium propionate, correct?
Basically, yes.
Right. So you mentioned that there's a premium that is being paid, like 8 times multiple for like the alternative that bakers are using. Right, and this is driven by the end consumer. If you put calcium propionate, how are you looking to market that to the end consumer? How will they tell the difference?
Because we're able to call it cultured vegetable oil derivative. Okay. And the bread companies and so cultured dextrose that's on the bread label, or cultured wheat flour, the primary mold inhibitor in there is calcium propionate. The primary preservative in bacon that has on the label cultured celery extract are nitrates and nitriles. Nitrates and nitrites, sorry. It's a practice in the food industry that if it comes from a natural source, you don't have to label it by its chemical name. Ours, by the way, is not 100% calcium propionate. That's not really a strong argument for not having to call it calcium propionate. But if you look on bread labels, you'll see you'll see cultured wheat flour. And you'll know that that's really mostly calcium propionate, maybe 50% calcium propionate, maybe 10% succinate, 10 or 20% lactate. It's and really, you know, one of the biggest drivers of this clean label movement is people just don't want to believe that their molecules are coming from fossil fuels. They don't.
The reason I ask is because how does the consumer, how is the quality able to tell that?
Well, so they can't really tell, but the bread companies are requiring us to come with a C14 analysis to say it's 100% biogenic. Bimbo says they will not buy from us unless it's 95% biogenic carbon.
So we'll wrap this up here. Thank you very much, Dave. Thank you, Steve. Much appreciate you taking the time here. We'll get into the last panel on investors, but let's give them a big hand.